watching the Tony Earls trial. If you're in Houston, you've probably heard of the case of Tony Earls, who's being charged with manslaughter for the death of 9-year-old Arlene Alvarez back in 2022. But you may not know how this case became a political and why it's so high profile. Here's what really happened. Back in 2022, Tony Earls and his wife were getting money out of an ATM, and they were held up at gunpoint. Tony Earls responded in probably one of the most Texan ways that you can think of, especially when you consider that in 2021, the Texas GOP had just passed permitless carry so that Texans could defend themselves against criminals. Thinking that the robber had jumped into a getaway truck, Mr. Earls fired on the truck multiple shots. And sadly, that truck was carrying Arlene Alvarez and her family, and she passed away. After this tragedy, Breaking Bond on Fox 26 News with Randy Wallace and also Andy Cahan of Houston Crime Stoppers amplified this story, along with several other stories, in their efforts to diminish the public's trust in the recently elected Harris County Democratic judges. They also pushed the narrative that Arlene's death was due to felony bond reform, but there was no felony bond reform in Harris County. There was a misdemeanor bail bond reform. Also, they never caught the robber anyways, so there's no way to tie the robber to bond. But that didn't stop them from making that a rallying cry. So the media framing from Breaking Bond on Fox 26 News with Randy Wallace and Andy Cahan is one of the ways this became politicized, because their news segment actually prompted the GOP and gave them cover to pass numerous laws impacting the right to bail. In this case, it's actually a perfect example of how the narrative that they push is not real, because the robber in this case was never caught. He was never on bond. Also, if you've seen my other videos on Breaking Bond, you know how Breaking Bond has misled the public and omitted pertinent information from their segments in an effort to make normal cases and normal practices an attack on the general public by elected judges. The other thing that made this case political is the fact that the DA at the time, Kim Ogg, took the case to a grand jury. They no-billed it, meaning they didn't want to move forward with charges. They didn't feel that the state had enough evidence. Kim Ogg then hired a special prosecutor who found new evidence of some sort, and they were able to resubmit the charges in 2024, and Mr. Earls was formally indicted. It's important to understand that during this time when Randy and Andy were doing Breaking Bond, the DA, Kim Ogg, was the person that should have been receiving a lot of the flack, but in order to protect herself, she threw her fellow Democratic judges under the bus, along with the county judge, which is basically our county administrator. She threw all of them under the bus in order to protect herself in the headlines. She went from earlier articles when she was explaining the law to the public to getting on the bandwagon with Andy and Randy to criticize democratically elected judges. The reality is that while Kim Ogg won the DA's seat under the Democratic umbrella, she had previously run for office at least once under the Republican umbrella and could not get elected because she's a member of the LGBTQ community. And when things got tough for her in the media, she immediately threw the Democratic Party under the bus. And the reality is there is only one winner in the situation. It's not Arlene Alvarez's family, because they'll never get her back. Mr. Earls' life is totally ruined. He's clearly remorseful and traumatized by what has happened. And the only winner in this scenario is the Harris County GOP and Breaking Bond with Randy Wallace and Andy Cahan. And I just got finished watching day one of the trial because I was reading the news reports and they were talking about a new piece of video evidence that the prosecution shared at the beginning of the trial, and the judge informed the defense that they need to be ready to take on this evidence within 2 days in court, which a little funny to me, but okay, it's his courtroom. Interesting to note that on day one, the prosecutors asked that the defense not be allowed to discuss the previous DA and her political scheming. Also, Andy Cahan was in the courtroom, and the defense actually asked for the judge to ask him to leave because he had on a t-shirt that said Houston Crime Stoppers. The judge didn't honor the request. So follow me if you want to see what's in my breakdown of trial day one.